So we are in the midst of the story. Boaz says to his servant, who is this young woman? We got into a whole discussion of Moabite and the Malbim, right? So Boaz turns to the girl, to Ruth, and what does he say to her, Aaron?
What line?
Verse 8. Chapter 2, verse 8.
Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Hear me well, my daughter. Do not close to glean in another field, and do not leave here, but stay close to my maidens."
So what does he tell her?
He wants her to stay.
Stay here. Stay here. You can come to my field. You can collect. You can glean. They're going to harvest. You can take whatever you want. It's fine. Stay close to the girls. Right? And don't go to anywhere else. Keep going. One more verse.
Keep your eyes on the field which they are harvesting and follow them. I have ordered the young men not to molest you. Should you get thirsty, go to the jugs and drink from what the young men have drawn.
Well, it's really nice, right? Not only tells her that she has permission to glean from this field. He tells her that he gave instructions to the staff not to bother her. And that if she's thirsty, she should feel free to drink from the water that the servants have brought for the workers. Okay? So far, everything's simple, right? Keep going. Aaron.
Then she fell on her face, bowing down to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take special note of me, though I am a foreigner?"
So what is she saying?
Why do you like me?
Right.
Are you being nice to me?
Right, she says, I did not expect you to be so nice to me. Because what? I'm a foreigner. I'm a Moabite. Okay? She's really asking him a question. Why are you being so nice to me? Is it because you saw something in me? Or because you know about my family? That's how the Malbim understands what she's saying. So the first part of the verse, she says, why have I found favor in your eyes? Right? That's one. Madua matzati chen be'enecha. And then says the Malbim, the next part, where she says, Anochi nochriya, right? Which is, I am a foreigner. So, is it something that you saw me, or because you know somebody about my family that you want to take care of me? Says Boaz to her in verse 10, 11.
And Boaz replied and said to her, I have been fully informed of all that you have done for your mother-in-law after the death of your husband. How you left your father and mother and the land of your birth and went to people you had never known before. Shall we 12?
Yes, please.
May Hashem reward your actions, and may your payment be full from Hashem, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come back to seek refuge.
Beautiful. Isn't it a beautiful verse? What is Boaz saying? He says, the reason that you found favor in my eyes is because of two things. One, because I know what you've done for your mother-in-law. So that answers your question on Thursday. Although you're trying to disguise yourself, but I know. We all know. And we really appreciate what you're trying to do. So that's the first thing. He says we could see the type of person you are and that the heart that you have. Because usually says the Malbim, the daughter-in-law hates her mother-in-law. That's a general assumption that the Malbim seems to say. Usually daughters-in-law and mother-in-laws don't like each other.
What about the husband and mother-in-law?
The husband and mother-in-law? Yeah, it's not a real issue.
Okay.
You just find her annoying.
Yeah, but that's it.
I hate her.
It takes energy to hate. It's kind of like you got to wake up in the morning and... So here we see that the Malbim says the general rule is, that everybody knows, is the daughter-in-law doesn't like the mother-in-law. So don't ask your wife, why don't you like my mother? She's so nice. Okay, I got it. Bernie, this is marriage advice. Write it down. It's right around the corner. Right?
No.
How do you know? You run the universe?
Intuition.
And he says, especially after the death of your husband, that you helped your mother-in-law. That is a big thing. And then he gets us to the next. And the second part, says the Malbim, is the conversion that was for the sake of heaven, the Shem Shamayim, that you converted for the sake of God. Shelo ba'avur hazeh pniya, because not because you were going to get some advantage from converting to become Jewish. Not at all. You left your father and your mother, and you joined a people that you don't know, and that is why you did this. So that's how the Malbim understand the verse. In verse 12, it says, may God pay you, right? Repay you. For what you did for your mother-in-law, may God pay you, because you did it as an act. And because you've converted, and may your payment be full from Hashem. That part is the blessing that God should repay her because she converted. The God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. That's how the Malbim explains to us the pasuk.
Isn't that kind of contradictory to what she keeps on saying now about how God is like dealt her a bad hand or?
That's Naomi. That's not Ruth.
Oh.
Ruth hasn't said anything about her lot. Ruth seems to, take it with stride. I don't know. I mean, the text doesn't tell us too much about Ruth. Ruth's emotional. What?
It doesn't really say that much.
No,
After the
not here.
After the famous bit.
Correct. If you look at the Hebrew on this verse, it's worth, because it's a fairly long Malbim, and I think it's worth for us to learn the principles here. The verse that Boaz says with regard to the blessing, he says to her, if you remember, may Hashem reward your action, right? And the question that he says, there's a difference between sachar, between reward, and between action. Between sachir and poel. Poel, a worker, gets paid for the job that he's done. Okay? So a worker, poel, let's say, makes suits, right? You go to buy a suit from a tailor, right? He says a suit will be $500. Okay? And he says, come back in an hour. Right? So you come back in an hour, he gives you a suit, what do?
Try it on.
Try it on, and then perfect, like made for you. Then what?
There's always something wrong.
No, you pay him the $500,
Okay.
right? Whether it took him an hour, whether it took him 2 weeks, you pay him for what he did. Right? If you come to him and says, where's my suit? I didn't make it, pay me $500. I worked 10 hours, but I only made one sleeve. Do you pay him? No, because you're paying him not per hour.
This was decided before.
No, the Malbim is explaining to us the difference between poel, the word poel, and sachir. There's two terms in Hebrew for a worker. And he's saying there are two types of workers. There's a worker that is called a poel. And poel or oman is somebody that gets paid for what they produce. They don't produce, they don't get paid.
Okay.
Regardless of how long it takes them. They have to figure that out, right? You go to a shoemaker and you buy a pair of shoes. I want a pair of shoes. If he can make the pair of shoes in a week or whether he makes it in 2 days, doesn't matter. He just says $30, $30. If you work 20 hours on it or worked an hour on it, it's not your problem. You hired him to fulfill a particular task. So poel is a guy that gets paid for what he does. A waiter, for example, is he a poel?
Nope.
No, why not?
From this hour to this hour, to be there. And if there are no clients, he's paid as well.
He's paid. See, in Israel, they only pay him. They only get tips. So if there's nobody there, they don't get.
Yeah, okay.
Same in America.
Yeah, you don't get hourly.
Very little
Yes, no,
hourly.
They switched it.
Ah,
You get a little, like you get like it's like $2.50 or like $3.
yeah.
In Miami in particular, they made a loophole where the owner is allowed to pay with your own money now.
With your own money.
He actually, he made me sign a waiver that says that all the tips are his. The only thing he has to pay me is $8 an hour. But we have an unspoken agreement that he pays me the hourly, that minimum, the $4.90. He pays me with my own money and then lets me keep the rest of the tips as a gift.
Wow.
And in California, you have to claim it as taxes. So you get
Everywhere you can claim it as taxes. Everywhere.
okay.
Taxes has nothing to do with because it's income, buddy.
I know.
Yeah, but in
And
America,
you-
even if you win the lottery, you have to pay taxes on it. I don't know what's that.
Why not? You have to pay taxes when you die.
Yeah.
What? Nobody said. What's that about? I'm dead. Collect it. Don't worry. We will.
It goes even further. You have to pay taxes on a short sale foreclosure. If you bought a house for $400
Right.
and the bank sells it for $220, it's like the $180 was a gift and you have to pay taxes on it.
Nice.
Welcome to America.
Listen. The point of the government is to get money out of you,
I'll give you.
and they do it in the nicest way, right? They do it. No, listen, it's the law. We just have to follow through. Okay. So Poel is a guy that gets paid based on what he does. Sachir, says the Malbim, is a person that gets paid hourly. You hire him, in your factory to make shoes, and he doesn't get paid per shoes that he makes. He gets paid to work from 9 to 5. Really 9 to 6 plus an hour lunch.
What if
No
there's a-
cigarette breaks.
What if there's a quota?
That's the case that he's giving. Is there a minimum? Like you should, in 8 hours, you should produce X?
Yeah.
Okay. That seems to be a combination, but that's what he's trying to tell us. So, because he's trying to explain the bracha, the blessing that Boaz gave. Okay, so the pe'ula, the action that is done, he gets sachar pe'ulato. Right? The pe'ula means that he did a particular action. He produced a pair of shoes, and therefore he gets paid for that pair of shoes that he did. So the first part of the bracha of Boaz is he says, Hashem may pay you for what you did. You took care of your mother-in-law. That we're going to look at it, we're going to pay you as if you were a shoemaker. God, you gave her this, Hashem will give you that. Get it? You with me?
Shoemaker?
You ever heard of that word before? Cobbler?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you know what cobblers are? What do they do? What do they make?
They make shoes.
Shoes.
Yeah.
They make shoes. So, shoemakers get paid for the shoes they make. Right? You go into the store, put your foot in, they measure it, they say, okay, we'll make you a shoe like this, like this. Okay. And you come back and you say, how much is it? And they'll tell you $100 and you pay the fee. You don't pay them for the hours that they worked, you only pay for the product they produced.
Yeah.
The first part of Boaz's blessing is that we pay her for the product that she produced. Ruth took care of her mother-in-law. So he says, Hashem should pay you for what you've done. You carried her bag, God should pay you for carrying the bag. You brought her food from home, she should do that. You stayed with her for companionship, God should pay you for that. God should pay you based on your action. For each action that you did, God should pay you. Like shoemaker. The second part of the blessing, if you look carefully, he says, Maskoratech shlema, from Sachir. Sachir. What is a Sachir? Sachir is a person, an hourly employee. Right? If you get a salary, let's say I open a business. All right, Bernie? And we are educating kids about the Parsha through rap. And I said, now listen, I know I can pay you per rap, but I want you on salary for us. So we're going to pay you one monthly fee, and you're going to work for us full time. Whether it's 30 hours a week or 40 hours a week, 45, 35, whatever it is, you're getting paid because you are on salary. $100,000 a month. You're in?
$100,000 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It took a little too long. If I would have said $1,000 a month, you should have jumped on it. Right?
No, the was depends on hours.
Listen, these days, you got any cash flowing in? I think for $1,000, you're like, I'm in.
I don't know, I'm pretty committed to full-time learning.
Okay, yeah, but I could be swayed. Good job. That was good. All right, good. So that, he says, Boaz is saying, the fact that you converted to Judaism, may God reward you like a person on salary. There are two types of remunerations, according to the Malbim. First type of remuneration is based upon the product of your labor. Okay? So if you produce shoes, for example, let's change shoes, popsicles, right? So you get paid for every popsicle that you produce. You produce 20 popsicles, you get paid for 20 popsicles. You produce one, you get for one.
I've worked for jobs
What?
I've done jobs
Good. If you, on the other hand, get a job as a salary, so they hire you for 8 hours a day to make popsicles. You make 100 popsicles, you make 20 popsicles, they pay you for 8 hours. Now, you might say, well, if I only produce one popsicle per 8 hours, they're not going to pay me. They'll pay you for the hours that then they'll tell you you're fired because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But there is this idea. You see the difference between a salary and between piece work. So he says really what Hashem is saying here, what Boaz is saying, is may Hashem pay you for your actions. But since you converted to Judaism, and you've taken upon yourself to serve Hashem and to fulfill all His commandments, you are as if a salaried employee for God. You're a salaried employee for God. Which means what?
I think it means the more you do, the more you get paid. You'll get your raises.
What? Says who's?
It's the opposite.
Why?
You work.
How did you get that?
You work hard, you get your salary. You work harder, you get a bigger salary.
Says who?
Says me.
Well, for you. Good for
Whatever
you.
you do, you'll get your wage.
You get your. It's saying that you're gonna get a wage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, you're gonna get a wage, but your wage could be higher, your wage could be lower, and the more you work on yourself, the higher your wage will be.
I don't think that's what he says.
You get to keep your job if you work hard.
Oh, did you hear that?
What about doing good work?
Maybe.
It's okay. Just ignorance is bliss. That you haven't had a job. It's good.
No, but the point is that he's telling her, which is a message for all of us, that we are salaried employees of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. We work for Him. We work for Him. And he says this, Muskeret lo kol yemei chaya. All his life we are salaried to work his labor. And we receive the sachar esachir, that God pays her always. Whether she does it, whether she doesn't do it. Because God pays us.
Whatever we do.
Yeah? That's the bracha that He's giving her. He's giving her a blessing like that. You should see yourself under the salary of Hashem.
So the point is, no matter how much we do, it's always going to be the same salary. As opposed to
See, look at.
You can get a raise next year.
Don't look at it as negative. Look at it as positive.
Because you want a job where you can, it's open-ended, where you can work more for more money. So then really you're in control.
You can get fired.
What?
You can get fired. Ever heard of that?
You can get fired.
Not
Yes.
They basically, as long as
God says, you know what? Control, I'll delete this one. Dun-dum. right? And that's not good. That's what Jesse was saying. You're looking at it, okay, so if I work, I get rewarded and I get bonuses. Otherwise, why? It's because you have a job. You have your health. You have your eyes, your ears, everything works. You go to the restroom, Baruch Hashem, everything works, no surprises. Yeah? You go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed. People are happy to see you.
Not so much, but most of you are.
Morning, no.
You have food on the table. You wake up in the morning, you get breakfast. You have an ability to understand a text. You have the ability to sit and learn Torah. It used to be a capital crime to learn Torah. It used to be a capital crime to teach Torah.
Yeah, no, it's much better being here than working. It's more
Okay.
tiring, but it's better.
Huh?
It's ironic.
The point is that Boaz is telling her, you've converted to Judaism now. May God continue to pay you as a salaried employee. You've come onto the company, you signed the dotted line to be part of the company. And you get paid, God will pay you, whether you do or you don't. That's what I'm blessing you. Don't think of it like, so she doesn't have to do the mitzvahs, she can just chill out. No. So he says, it's not when it says that she wasn't doing a mitzvah, it means because that time of that mitzvah didn't come. For example, to eat matzah. Right? You eat matzah in Pesach. Is eating matzah a mitzvah? Only on Pesach. Right? If it's nighttime, should you put on your tefillin? No. But you get schar for it. You get rewarded. You get paid for it. Even if it's not the time for it. That's what the Malbim understands. This verse. Okay. Now, here he continues. He says, because you're going to receive salary, and that since you came under the wings of Hashem, so he says that from that point onwards, you get paid. And then whenever you do a mitzvah, you also get paid. Do you hear what?
Commission.
Salary plus bonuses or commission. You get salary because you're a Jew. And this is what it is. And you do a mitzvah, you get paid. He's giving her both blessings. You get salary, plus you get paid for every mitzvah that you do. And then for every mitzvah that you do means also the mitzvahs that tell you don't do. Right? Don't worship idols. Did you worship an idol today?
No.
Good, you get credit. Bing, 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 bing. Did you eat pig today? No? Bing, 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 bing. That's how it works. So like, do me, Rabbi. I don't want to.
I just wish that sound would stick with me.
What?
The bing, 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 every time I do something. I have like a little button. Every time.
No, because remember, every second that you sit is a mitzvah. So it'll be constant. That'll be awful.
That'd be insane.
So I have a button for it when I feel like hearing it.
Right? Like I'm thinking that there's only one God. Ding, 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 ding. God, one God, ding, ding, ding. Or maybe God is two. It'd be a lot easier, right? You're sitting on the light rail like this. Okay. Won't look over there. Right? Certainly help.
It would certainly help, but so like something like, they're not eating not kosher for the day. Is that, I mean,
What?
how, is that every day it gets renewed? I mean, are those really?
I think with not eating pig, I think it has to do that you have the ability to. If there's no pig,
does it have
that's
to be in front of you and you reject it, or is it?
it's a good question. I think on maybe eating non-kosher food, probably. Because it's don't eat this, eat this. I don't know, it's a good question.
So living in Miami, you get a lot more bonus points for not eating.
But remember, for every second that you live in Eretz Israel, you get points for it.
That's true.
And
If you
those
had that
just
sound system,
what?
if you had that sound system, the whole purpose of creating humanity would it wouldn't.
You
It
probably
would
make it up for it.
because we wouldn't have free will anymore.
Why wouldn't you have free will?
Well, you're always having an electric shock.
No, forget the electric shock. Maybe you just hear a buzz.
That's still not your free will.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a.
Why? You're like, I could care
It's
less.
restricting you.
Why?
What? So for people, I'm sure if you've got a constant noise, whenever you do something wrong, people won't do it because of the noise.
That's not
your
true.
free will. If
I
you've
don't know
got
about
a
that.
constant noise, it's
I
just-
think if you went on the internet and you're going to this website and you hear, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Right? There's people who do that all the time. All the time. And there is opinion in Judaism that you do get it when you do something wrong, that Hashem punishes you.
Right. Yeah.
And that still doesn't change free will. People say, I don't know.
That wasn't him.
Or even if they say it's him, it's okay, I'll take it. Okay, God, I know you don't want me to, but I can't help it. I have to have ice cream after my steak.
I'm not a paradise.
Steak
No.
and shit.
I have to have pistachio ice cream.
Real problem.
Yeah, so there's people who, no matter what, it doesn't matter what happens to them. There are people who can barely breathe from emphysema and all sorts of issues, and they light another cigarette. Like, don't you know it's killing you? Yeah, but I gotta have my cigarette, man. Right? Like in Nebraska, when I lived there, it was, in the winter it gets like 10 below. You see people outside the building like huddle around. Like, you're free. This can't be good. Like just set your coat on fire. You warm up a little bit. It's too cold for the fire to burn. I'll never forget there was a fire and the water froze in the hoses. The water froze in the hoses because it was so cold. Okay? But
The kid used to stand in front of the heater, start sweating, and then run outside with that heat to survive the cigarette. Yeah.
free will.
Well, that's not free will.
That-
That's definitely not free will.
what is it?
That you're being controlled.
Addiction.
That's also not free.
I'm gonna smoke. There are people who cold turkey eat it. I know people like that. Said, cigarettes, no mas. And they're done. So they'll hold a pen in their fingers, chew gum. What do you want? Like, okay. I didn't have a cigarette today. Okay, but just let go of my leg. Like,
Number 2 pencils are all chewed out.
I know. But free will doesn't mean that it's absolute free will. Because you're going to have certain propensities. Right? For example, I don't like, eggplant. I do, but I'm just giving that example. So if you have eggplant and, pork, it's going to be a lot harder for me to turn down the pork. Get it? I'm giving an example, not me. But free will is not unencumbered. Because we are subject to certain laws, even though there's certain people that think they're just good ideas. But gravity is not just a good idea. It's the law. You break it, see what happens. And you have these people who try to jump off buildings, right? And, they can. All the way down to the concrete cement. And then they don't bounce, like this. You don't, it doesn't do that.
Reach your final destination.
That's right. So there's certain laws of physics that limit our ability, our free will. As much as I would like to fly, I can flap my arms as fast as I can. I'm not going anywhere, except the loony bin. you know what a loony bin is? Or is that only Americans use that term? Do you know what a loony bin is? Okay. In New York, they say Bellevue, table for two.
Does that help?
It's an institution for crazy people.
Okay.
Right? So if you flap your arms, that's the only way you're going to go. Right? So you say, but I really have free will. Okay, that's enough. Put down, the yarmulke, step away from the tefillin. You're going away. So here, Kadosh Baruch, the boss is giving her a bracha, something that we should know. That we get a schar t'midi for being Jews, and every time we perform a mitzvah, we get rewarded for that. Okay? So, and he says that a person, the question is, it's interesting what he says. שאחר זה בעצמו שיזכה האדם לעשות מצוות השם ולעבוד עבודת המלך הגדול יתברך הוא שכר יותר גדול. So he says, what really is greater? To be on salary or to get paid for the mitzvah?
Now I have to choose. There's no more salary.
No, let's say just from a philosophical perspective. He says being on the payroll of the King of the universe has to be greater than getting rewarded for the actual mitzvah that you do.
So having the ability to get the mitzvah.
What?
From experience, it's the commission that keeps you motivated.
The commission.
If you get
Make more money on commission.
if you get paid for every mitzvah you do, it's motivation to do more and more and more and more. Versus on salary, you're happy with 10 a day. We're still using the job analogy.
So he says really he was asked this question. And he says, why does the Torah, God promised schar mitzvot, the reward for performing of the mitzvah? But he says the performance of the mitzvahs itself is your reward. What does that mean? I'm going to just say my own pshat, not necessarily if the Matalon would agree. The only way you can do the mitzvah is if you're on the payroll. If you're not on the payroll, you're not doing a mitzvah.
That's why the payroll is the best part.
Right? So let's say you have somebody who's not Jewish. And they say, I don't eat pork because God said so. You're like, but are you Jewish? Nope. So, but God said so, I don't eat pork. What would you say to her or him?
Not Jewish.
Yeah, but what?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You're free.
You're free. What does that mean? You're free. We are free. We're also free.
Sorry, that was the old Bernie talking.
It's just your diet preference.
But I thought the Rambam said that it's good for everyone to do the mitzvah.
Yeah?
Maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't say you're wrong. I just said yeah. Don't get nervous. I ask yeah all the time.
I'm nervous.
When you
So
buy-
did you hear this?
No.
Shimon threw down the gauntlet. He says, wait, the Rambam says it's just doing the mitzvah is good for everybody.
That's not one of the no-I laws, 7 no-I laws.
No.
So you don't need to do it.
So Bernie says, listen, the covenant is the non-Jews have 7 mitzvahs to perform, and we have 613.
But they have to. It doesn't mean that they have to do 7, but they can do all the others if they want to. It's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory. But it doesn't count.
I don't know. It's just like it's something I've heard.
The Rambam says that the mitzvahs are here to help us improve ourselves, right? To make us better people, to perfect the body, perfect the soul, perfect your morality, and also so on. So if that's the case, a person who's doing the mitzvah, therefore, should get the reward through becoming a better and better person. So if a non-Jew says, I'm going to wear tzitzit, I'm not going to wear shatnez, wool and linen, right? Because the Torah says you're not allowed to wear wool and linen together.
What's linen?
Linen? Linen
Material.
is a material.
Like polyester
No,
Like
polyester.
material, like,
Polyester is made out of oil. You know, like they get from the ground. So it's that's not an issue.
Okay.
Polyester is not an issue. But linen is like cotton. I want to say cotton, but it's not really cotton. It's linen. It's everybody knows it's linen. Wikipedia it after class. All right, it's time for mincha because we see guests.